Welcome to the Arcology, a Shadowcasters network show about all things Shadowrun. I'm Mr. Johnson, and today we'll be talking with Vector Tridens about their upcoming game, Exit Vector. Now for the news. We've got some Shadowrun news this week. Body Shop is out. It's big news. It's a major new release covering all sorts of augmentations, not just the cyberware books. There's cybernetics, BioWare, and lots of other interesting things that will add to the setting. We'll be discussing this major new release for Shadowrun 6th edition in our next episode. Also, Bestial Nature is out. It's a Shadowrun ebook that's all about shifters. In other news, just mention Hellslayers. It's a new RPG, a hack and slash of Morkborg inspired by the classic video game Doom, coming soon, created by myself. And we had an actual play series that actually concluded this past week, so you can check out the whole series on video demand on Rem Alternus' Twitch channel. That's twitch.tv/Master of Rem. The Kickstarter page for that is now up and live, so you can go ahead and check that out. Please do so if you're interested and follow, and we'll let you know when the campaign launches. Anyway, that's all I've got for news, so let's move on to our main topic and bring in our special guests. We have joining us, representing Vector Tridens. First up, we have Matt, who is the fixer for Vector Tridens. Welcome to the Arcology, Matt.
Hey, Mr. Johnson. Great to be here.
And we're also joined by Mark, the CFO of Vector Tridens. Welcome to the Arcology, Mark.
Thanks, Mr. Johnson, and glad to be on your show today.
Yeah, we're happy to have you here. I know I've been hearing a lot about Exit Vector in recent months. You've taken it to Kickstarter. So we have you on here to talk about it, and partly because it's a cool game that sounds interesting, but also seems very Shadowrun adjacent, if not actually more like Venn diagram overlapping, I would say, rather than just adjacent. But reading from your Kickstarter page, I'll just read off the intro here and we can get talking about it. Exit Vector is an aerial combat board game set in a dystopian near future where nations, criminal syndicates, and powerful corporations compete for power in a world of high technology and magic. Players assume the role of an expert pilot for hire, flying their high-performance aircraft on jobs ranging from search and destroy to troop transport. So, what is the inspiration behind Exit Vector?
Yeah, so we're a group of basically a role-playing group. We started playing back in college over 20 years ago. Not coincidentally, we did most of our playing in Shadowrun. In fact, that was like my first introduction to role-playing, is when some great GMs found me at college and they pulled me into the game. So it's been a great experience there. So no mystery why there's some Shadowrun-esque themes to the Exit Vector story. But we kind of played in college, went our separate ways, and reconnected a few years ago through COVID, as people started figuring out, hey, I can role play again online. Using all these great virtual tools now available. So we've kind of reestablished our gaming group, and a lot of us went off into the aviation world, flying airplanes, helicopters, and doing other things, whether it be designing them or using them for aircraft. And a lot of us are big fans of being riggers and running riggers in Shadowrun, and we noticed always that kind of like the earlier editions with decking and hacking, it seems that sometimes the rigger moment is really cool. At least we thought it was really cool, but you'll have your riggers doing this great thing and everyone else is sleeping, getting pizza, kind of get left out of the mix for two reasons. One, the team has done a great job of putting some really great rigger vehicle combat rules in, but what we found is sometimes takes a little too long. Maybe it could be more streamlined. So that was kind of our goal. We got together and said, hey, what's a way we can maybe make the vehicle combat, a little more tactical, maybe use map, with more solid rules on that, maybe make it streamline it down, make the roles easier, make it easier for GMs to kind of figure out how to do a quick vehicle scenario, instead of like a hour and a half-ish, full on chase scene or whatnot, maybe get it down to more of a 30-45 minute scene. But more importantly, figure out a way to bring the whole team in, whether you're a street samurai shooting your gun out the window, whether you're a a hacker or a technomancer or a decker, working, the electronic warfare aspect of like hacking drones or other grids while you're doing it. So we're a way to bring the whole team together. So we kind of saw that hole. Luckily, we got a lot of folks with an engineering background who were good at like calculating odds, and some really long-standing GMs in the Shadowrun community. So we came up with the system of Exit Vector. And so this is the product of those efforts.
Awesome. That's sounds a lot like some of the driving force and inspiration for when I pitched for Double Clutch, the Rigger book. So I actually got to write the chapter on chase combat there. So that was a lot of my design goals as well. So yeah, it didn't really feel like that was represented well in just the core book, which granted the core book's got a lot to cover, so can't go to detail in all our favorite parts, right? So awesome. So let's talk about the game mechanics a bit of Exit Vector. How many players do you play? You have it listed as a board game, but you're also sort of talking about it in role playing terms. And as I've read through it, there's a lot of RPG terms that seem to apply to that. So how does the board game of Exit Vector play out?
So,
Yeah.
go ahead,
Go
man.
ahead, Mark.
Okay. So anyways, so how it plays out is that it can be played on a tabletop, an actual physical tabletop, or it can be played virtually via the Roll20 environment. So on the tabletop, our set provides some physical maps that are actually they're vinyl maps, so they're good quality. They'll stand up to lots of gaming sessions, and also the same map in Roll20. And we're going to have miniatures from Death Ray Designs there on the board, and also 2 electronic tokens of the same miniatures in the virtual environment. Now, the way it works on the board, and Matt can elaborate as well, is basically having movement points allotted for each vehicle, and using the stats of, attack, sleaze, drive, and firewall, which are very similar to the stats used in Shadowrun. And players will move their movement points, and then when it comes time to execute an action, such as shooting or sleazing, they have 1 action die. So they'll roll the action die. If the action die comes up a 5 or a 6, that adds 1 point to that player's particular attribute that they're testing against, such as attacking or sleazing. If it's 2 through a 4, nothing is added or subtracted from the attribute. If it's a 1, that's a glitch similar to Shadowrun, and that point is subtracted off their attribute that they're using in the test. So that's a very simple version of how the game works.
Yeah. The couple things I'll add to that is it all leverages the rule of 4. So I think a lot of Shadowrun game masters, using that very similar, 5 and above as a hit type system. A lot of Shadowrun GMs leverage that rule of 4. If you have a dice pool of 8, well, that's 2 auto hits, and especially when you're doing like grunts and stuff like that. So we basically morph the system around leveraging that rule of 4. So instead of you're rolling 8 dice, well, just roll 1. That gets your randomness.
You're sort of referencing the buying hits mechanic in Shadowrun, where you've got
exactly
for every 4 dice you have, that counts as 1 success. You're sort of taking the idea of a larger dice pool instead of rolling a bunch of dice, just resolving that down to 1 hit for every 4 dice they would normally roll.
Yeah, and at the core of the basic Exit Vector, that's the way it works. But at the end of the day, it's easy to multiply by 4. So, we know if people like rolling big dice pools. So if players want to do that, that's totally on the table. And we have ways you can do that. But at the end of the day, the less dice you roll, the faster your gameplay is going to move.
And to dovetail off Matt said on that, the goal of Exit Vector is to kind of keep a very tight, chase scene, so to speak. Whereas Matt alluded to in Shadowrun, you're always rolling a lot of dice. By keeping Exit Vector very streamlined, you get a chase scene that's exciting for players. Either a good segue from another role-playing game, into the rigor action, or as a standalone game by itself that can be played fairly quickly.
Okay, so as far as the characters that are in the game, if we're talking just the board game, who are the participants? You got I know you use the terms riggers, drones, and something called packs.
Yeah, great question. And you hit on something very key. You do have a game master and you have a player. So at its best, the game works well for 4 to 6 players, one of which being a game master. in a lot of ways, Exit Vector is a hybrid between a tabletop role-playing game and your traditional, tactical combat game like a BattleTech or Warhammer or something like that. But we're role players at heart, so we love having a GM. We encourage folks to integrate story into their scenario. In fact, one of our guiding principles was, as I said earlier, we wanted to find a way that you can, do your tabletop role-playing game, whether it be GURPS or Cyberpunk or Shadowrun, but if you want to do a vehicle scenario, well, then you can just pick up the board and move some miniatures around and do that tactical vehicle scenario in a somewhat realistic scenario, or at least as much as we can, with keeping game play fast and fast. So yeah, absolutely. So you have your players, the characters they'll be playing. Riggers is kind of like the marquee at the core of the Exit Vector mechanic. We are also making a Hollow Streets project we can talk more about later, where you basically just grab your Shadowrun character, convert it to Exit Vector rules, and then anyone can do it. So you can be a Street Samurai, Mage, Decker, Technomancer, whatnot. We'll have a way you can convert any of your Shadowrun characters in there. So any big Shadowrunner fans who have a character, if you think about that thing that character you're playing, there's a way to integrate it into Exit Vector. But for the basic game that we're selling via our Kickstarter, we provided 4 archetype, just standard PC characters, 4 different pilot/rigger types. And most of your opposition are going to be drones, like rotor drones, ground roller drones, anti-aircraft drones stationed on buildings. And we also have like boss style NPCs. We call it the Interceptor, who's another rigger, who's a higher performance vehicle. The big baddie is going to come in if you take too slow to get your mission done.
So are the players, if there are multiple players along with the GM, are they working together similar to an RPG mechanic, or is it are they competing against each other as well as against the GM's drones and such?
You know what? That's kind of all up to the group. I mean, to be honest, when we designed this, we were thinking of cooperative play, but then we sit down to one of our demos, and the first thing one of the characters does is just take a shot at their partner. I would say the world we're kind of weaving around the Exit Vector mechanic is all about like an armed ride share in the air. Think Uber for Shadowrunners, or Edge Runners or whatever. So it's basically, through the magic of science and the Matrix, you have this very secure site where vetted Shadowrunners and riggers can kind of connect when they need a hot extract, either when the original plan goes to Drek, or if, they maybe are just bad planners. So that's, if you want to do like fast-paced gameplay, just pick it up and go very light on scenario. That's basically, the mechanic around it. It's like, yep, you're sitting around eating soy, drinking your soy calf, feeding your dog, and then you get a ping for a job. You can accept it if you want or not, and then you just go off and do it.
Cool. So with the idea of using this to resolve like a chase combat in Shadowrun, one of the things I've noticed about the game is the vehicles pretty much all seem to be aircraft, which for most Shadowrunners, the price tag on an aircraft is generally outside of their means, unless maybe they all pull together and sort of make that their main group thing. Could this be used for ground chases as well?
We've definitely optimized the rules for air combat, but there's nothing that would preclude any group from using for ground as well. In fact, we've done a couple of play tests where we have our PCs flying around on a mission, and then there's a ground combat there. As as someone who's had their hand in double clutch and in the Shadowrun rule set, it starts to get very difficult when you look at the speeds that aircraft operate on as a matter of course versus what vehicles and metahumans travel at. You can get into some interesting scenarios where it gets hard to kind of kludge it. Like when you have an LAV going to max blast over a street, they can come and go before a metahuman has a chance to like react. You have less than a turn to react at the speeds they're going at. But that being said, it's just a matter of adjusting your scale. Like we use a hex grid system for Exit Vector, very similar to BattleTech, very similar size and scale of models. And so that's just a matter of saying, oh, that hex is a 50-meter hex. Well, now it's a 10-meter hex. And now you can pull out your Mac cars or whatever car models you have or want to acquire, or tokens or poker chips, coins, and to represent that. So what we want people to picture with this game is, yeah, we're selling models and maps and all that stuff. And we definitely encourage you to purchase them because they look awesome. Death Ray Designs does fantastic job on their models, and they're a known quantity in the community, and they're fantastic. But you can still just grab the rule set, any sort of hex map, and role players since the dawn of time have been just like pulling out dry erase markers and grid maps, and and figuring out ways to do tactical scenarios there. So this rule set empowers you to do that. Just another way of doing it. Maybe it's just a little faster.
And in our materials, we say, this game puts you in the driver's seat. That's exactly what it does. You can scale it up, scale it down, to whatever kind of scenario you're looking at. And as Matt alluded to, it can very easily fit, not just into Shadowrun, but it can fit as a standalone. It can integrate into other games. It's all up to the players as to how they want to do it. And again, as Matt said, the rules were built to have that flexibility so that it can be very adaptable to whatever the players and the GMs want it to be.
So, what sort of scenarios are included in the I guess the board game version? So, if you're not sort of using it to resolve something in your Shadowrun game or whatever, if you're just sitting down to play a game of Exit Vector uh, for its own sake.
Yeah, so we want to keep it simple. So like a lot of us have a helicopter background, so insert extract is very close to our hearts. Dropping off the troops, picking them back up again. So we basically presented, I would say, as our primary scenario, which we view it, and that in any Shadowrunner group knows that like someone coming in to pull their hoop out of the fire is near and dear to the heart. So we have an insert extract scenario where basically you start off at a point, you go, you pick up a team, if you will, and then you exit the map at a specific point. The other one is search and destroy, which equally fun, and depending on what your group's like, maybe more fun. But they basically you roll the map and you take out everything. That scenario being more of a, hey, the Shadowrun team coming in, they're doing an extract, but there's a lot of corporate drones in the area. We need someone to go in and sanitize the area, and take away the opposition. So someone with less guns and missiles and whatnot. You brought up economy earlier. That's a great point. I would say we're big fans of giving game masters and groups the ability to do the highs and the lows to the lows. Or sometimes, as teams like to do standalone, just one-off things. I remember I've had a few of my earlier, back when we were in college, some of the more memorable games we have is when, your Johnson pulls you in and you get pulled into, maybe a corporate raid that maybe is a little bit above your pay grade, but they're willing to expend some resources your way, kind of letting your Shadowrunners play with the bigger toys. So I think there's definitely scenarios where game masters can pull in kind of the aircraft stuff, but our lead game designer Chopper is surprisingly good about going through the Shadowrun books and finding very affordable ways to get helicopters into the scenario. My first game, my first SR6 game we played, we came together as a group saying, hey, let's build a team around an LAV. So I played the rigger. I dumped all my money into an LAV. Another guy, another one of our players decided to put a bunch of money into drones and the rigger control deck, and we kind of went off on an early prototype version of this concept. So a bunch of aviation nerds like that, it really works. But I think there's a lot of scenario. I think aviation is cool, and I think there's a lot of gamers out there who think it is too. So it's very doable.
Yeah, definitely. I played in a campaign years ago that was centered around Denver, which is very much a T-bird smuggling scene as far as the shadow side of things. And we had a group that were sort of built around. We had our T-bird, and yeah, we did the various things you might do in Exit Vector. So, um, you mentioned in the mentions on the Kickstarter the different types of actions you might do are shoot, scoot, sleaze, and stabilize. Shoot seems fairly obvious to me. What are the other options, and how do those fit into the game?
So sleaze is an electronic attack, so you can think of it as, sending out junk code into another vehicle's brain, so to speak, to confuse it, crash it, bring it down. You could think about it as like a radar jamming. Bottom line, it's an electronic attack against another vehicle. So what sleaze can do is that one, it creates more stress within the vehicle. And one of the metrics that we added into different vehicle stats is a metric called system shock, which basically is not damage per se, but if you think of it as, busted hydraulic line spewing fluid or degradation of aircraft systems, the bottom line, if bad things happen to you, it's going to affect your performance. So sleaze can be used to increase the system shock of a vehicle, which if you max out the vehicle system shock, it crashes and it has to reboot, and it's effectively, out of the game for that turn. Sleaze can also be used to degrade the attribute of another vehicle or to learn that vehicle's attributes, so how your enemy stands. So it's a non-specific kind of electronic attack that can be used to degrade your enemy's capabilities. And the stabilize action does just the opposite. So you kind of think of it as R2D2 in the back, fixing things while your X-wing is sparking. That's what a stabilize action is. It brings down your system shock and restores any attributes that may have been damaged by an enemy's attack. And then Scoot is interesting in that we have a maneuver table full of different aerobatic maneuvers that the aircraft can do. So a rigger can use a Scoot action to execute one of these special maneuvers and gain a bonus on edge, or gain a bonus to movement, or gain a bonus to their attack. There's a lot of different things that you can do with the Scoot action.
All right, awesome. So let's talk about some of the vehicles in there. You got looks like four that are coming with the base game. Each of them have sort of a different specialties, though they all have a fairly similar body attributes. Are those all just available to choose from? You pick whichever one you want, or would you say start with an entry level one and work your way up to something better as you
Yeah,
go?
usually what I recommend is, so yeah, each vehicle basically highlights one of the skills or one of the stats. So attack, sleaze, drive, firewall are the four stats that we condense that into every character. So each of the pre-generated vehicles has basically a +1 in either of those. There are some, like the heavy on attack will have like missiles, whereas the one that's heavy on firewall, will be able to carry more passengers but may not have missiles. Your more transport aircraft will have more doors and ramps, so your PCs can actually like poke their guns out and shoot. Whereas your heavy attack aircraft, it just has room for piloting, pilot and a gunner on that. So there are some nuances there, but what comes down to is, my recommendation is, hey, what type of character do you want to be? Do you want to be that attacker that is just going out like just wreaking havoc? Well, we got an aircraft for you. Do you want to be someone who does electronic attacks? Do you want to be the person that like weakens bad guys and does hacking stuff? We got an aircraft for you. I like driving, so I like getting in and out really quick and doing maneuvers. So I usually choose a vehicle that boosts my drive attribute. Because, oh, by the way, that's dodge. That's how you dodge physical attacks, which I'm a huge fan of. So it's basically those four, those 3 to 4 play styles to choose. You have a vehicle for that, or you can just choose what model you like the best, which is also really cool. But I think all the models look really great.
Awesome. Yeah, I'm with you on the dodging thing. The sort of X-wing type games that I've played, the A-wing is always my go-to. But yeah, these vehicle designs and the miniatures are really cool looking. I could see even if someone's not super interested in playing the game itself, it'd be just some nice miniatures to add to your collection.
Yeah, for sure. And Death Ray Designs, they do fantastic product. We're really happy to partner with them. So we basically source all of our models from their line, which is
If I
great.
remember correctly, they were the ones who produced our terrain for Gangs in the Undercity.
Oh yeah, Yeah, so they're awesome. Yeah, so then you know very well how great they are to work with, and I would heartily endorse anyone who's interested in miniatures. Go. They have a great catalog of miniatures, terrain, and the stuff looks really cool.
Awesome. Well, I think we've talked about the basic mechanics here and the miniatures. Do you want to discuss the Hollow Streets release that you got coming up soon?
Yeah, absolutely. So as we've talked about a lot, Shadowrun is definitely like in our DNA as gamers. So we're really excited when the Hollow Streets opportunity came up for us to add content there. So, and it's probably a good spot to talk about like the difference between the Kickstarter we have running and the Hollow Streets project we're going to release before Gen Con. So the box set that we're selling, or the various sets that we're selling in the Kickstarter, that's models. That's generic rule sets, and it's really designed to be kind of like that generic game that can be applied to any system or whatnot. You know, if you have anything involving airplanes, this is a great set of vehicle rule sets that you can do. And oh, by the way, you can get some really cool models and dice and pre-generated characters and whatnot. Whether you want to integrate it with a tabletop role-playing set, or you just want to play like standalone tactical air-to-air scenarios, which is great. Now, the Hollow Streets project we're wrapping up right now is kind of the Shadowrun skin for that. So we dug in, like we love digging in the Shadowrun books. So we basically dug into the core rule books, and we found like specific ways that you can adapt your Shadowrun character for Exit Vector and integrate it into specifically your Shadowrun campaign. So it's going to be a PDF release. We're really happy with the direction it's going. It'll be ready to go before Gen Con this year, so just under a month away, and we're really excited to showcase the Exit Vector Shadowrun edition, at Gen Con. It's gonna be great.
Awesome. Yeah. And as far as Gen Con goes, you're going to be running some events there as well, right?
Yeah, we got 3 events on the schedule for Gen Con. The Catalyst was gracious enough, especially with our Hollow Streets linkage, to let us run it in the room to kind of be another part of the ecosystem. We're going to be running some Exit Vector there. So if you see someone wearing this vest and whatnot, that's one of our folks. You'll see a bunch of models set up. So come by, say hi. You can check it out. We'll be there. Basically, we'll be in the room for the entire time. Whether we're running Shadowrun events, because most of us are demo agents too, or run an Exit Vector.
Yeah, I noticed in your lineup of individuals involved in Vector Tridens is someone with the handle Grendel. Is that the same Grendel that runs the Shadowrun tournament every year?
It surely is.
Okay, I thought so.
So yes, so yeah, you'll see Grendel in full cosplay glory that he usually comes up with. He's a great creative GM. I like to say I'm very spoiled in my Shadowrun experience because Grendel was my first GM ever, and anyone who's played at one of his tables at the cons knows he's a fantastic GM. Really, deep understanding of the Shadowrun world, great understanding of the rules. So yeah, we're really happy to have him, as our creative head, and he's just a great partner to have.
Awesome. Well, you've got the Exit Vector is currently on Kickstarter. Is that correct?
We do, yeah. We're at Kickstarter. So if you go to Kickstarter's launch page, just type in Exit Vector in the search, and we're there. We're off to a slower start than we would like. But we're soliciting feedback from our backers and followers, and then we'll be making adjustments as appropriate based off of what the fan feedback is. We want to be transparent. We want to be totally responsive to the fan base because this is the community we love, and we're here to stay for sure.
Yeah, looking at what's available for backing there, you've got sort of the main basic set comes in at $55, but you've got some digital or paper versions that are a little bit on the lower price point. So if someone doesn't want to spend as much money, and on the higher end, looks like at $200 you get everything that's being made for this.
Yeah.
Do you want to go over some of the rewards for the Kickstarter?
Yeah, for sure. So at our lowest level, it's a digital only version. And that's basically, if you're a Roll20 warrior or whatnot, we'll give you our digital assets. So So the map that you'll see on our Kickstarter page, it's made by Battle Master Maps. Fantastic company, does great work, does a lot of BattleTech centric stuff. We basically contracted an airplane to fly over Seattle and take shots of the city, hand it over to the pros, and they made this great high quality hex map for us. So that is what, so you'll get that product with the virtual set, and we also had some custom made tokens made for Roll20. So basically everything you need to just hop on a Roll20 or some other virtual tabletop thing to go if you're doing online play like most of us most of the time. So you can use that for your Shadowrun game, your Cyberpunk game, or whatever you need. Moving on beyond that, we have the paper set. And this one's like a really great idea by our CEO. He said, "Hey, listen, I go to conventions all the time, but I don't want to carry my milk crate of books around as much. So it's basically, hey, everything you need just to carry, like a real quick backpack, rules, a paper map that you can unfold really easily, and some tokens just to lay down. So really basic, very transportable if you want to go to your local game shop and go from there. Beyond that, we have our basic set, which that's when you actually get a box. So a box will include a map in there. It'll be a paper or poster board, good quality map. We're going to finalize that depending on how the Kickstarter goes and what feedback we get. But then there's going to be tarot cards, which will have archetypes. So your PC and NPC archetype stats there. We'll have dice, Legendary Pants dice. As our partner there. We're Sorcerer Dice from there. They do some really cool looking dice you can see on the Kickstarter page. It's got the red for 1, knowing that it's a -1, and different colors, for 5 and 6s, you got to hit. So just fantastic, easy to use stuff. And
great Shadowrun dice too.
They're great. And again, they've been great folks to partner with on this one. And then we'll give you, in the basic set, you'll get 2 minis. So we'll give you a PC mini and then an NPC mini for basics there. But you'll also be given, we're also including tokens there, because as we all know, like depending on what scenario you want to build, sometimes you don't always have like 10 NPC minis just through cost and other reasons. So we're providing cardboard tokens, so you can just punch them out. Say, oh, this one's the rotor drone. Hey, this is the more interceptors. If you want 5 bosses to come out at your team, you can totally do that. You're just going to do it with tokens, even if you don't have all the models. Although we would encourage you to buy models. And then beyond that, and every step beyond that, we just give you more minis. And then we start including some swag in there, patches, pins, stuff like that.
Awesome. Well, the Kickstarter is Exit Vector. So if you just Google Exit Vector on Kickstarter. Otherwise, if you want to toss a link in the chat here, in our chat that we're using, we'll put that in the YouTube chat here so people can click on that if they want. Something I should have done ahead of time, but
I'll work on that right now.
Nice. Well, I look forward to checking out Exit Vector. I'll be at Gen Con, so I'll be wandering over to the Shadowrun room at least a few times. I look forward to seeing the miniatures up close and checking out the game a bit if I get the chance.
Yeah, absolutely. Please do come by. Yeah, it'd be great to meet you in person, except other than on the electrons. And that goes to everyone. We always love meeting folks who love Shadowrun and interested in doing cool stuff with friends.
Awesome. Well, it seems like a lot of fun. Is there anything else that you'd like to discuss that we haven't covered in our interview so far?
Nope. I think we're good. Degs, got anything?
No, nothing for me. Just want to put out to everybody out there. Like you said, game is created by the community for the community. It is fun, functional, and fairly realistic. So players of all interests of crunchiness, so to speak, if you want to, very technically heavy game session, that's realistic as far as how aircraft work, you have it right here. If you want to have more of a story heavy session, a little bit lighter on the technical part, hey, you can do that too. Again, this game is very flexible and a lot of work. We went out to people all over the world, as Matt alluded to, to make the art and make the miniatures and make the maps, and a lot of effort was put into making this a great game that everyone will enjoy. So we certainly hope you'll come out and check it out, whether you're going to come see us at Gen Con or check out the Kickstarter. Please, and let us know what you think too. We'd love to hear your feedback.
Awesome. Well, thank you. So for our Q&A segment, I don't see any questions that have come in, so I guess we'll skip past that and wrap things up. Thanks so much for joining me in the Arcology. It's been fun to have you on talking about Exit Vector, and look forward to checking out the game.
Thanks, Mr.
And,
Johnson.
Thanks.
and with that, I guess we'll wrap things up. I'll just bring up the Arcology podcast has a Patreon if you want to support the show. At the $2 level, you get access to exclusive actual play series available as direct download or through private podcast feeds. And those are Shadowrun campaigns, but with a twist. So we have a number of completed ones, such as a Lone Star campaign, Pirates in the Caribbean, not of the Caribbean, a Black Star Neo-Anarchist campaign. Those are all out there and have completed. And currently there's an in-progress one we call Lost to Vegas. It's using Shadowrun Anarchy rules, ghouls surviving or trying to survive in Las Vegas in Shadowrun. You also get access to our patrons-only Discord server. And at the $5 level, you can sit in on our actual play recording sessions. But yeah, with that, we'll close up. Thanks so much for joining us today.